Hello to everybody who's joined the webinar. Hopefully this is all working properly. So if you are one of the 14 participants, can you just shout in the chat that you can hear that you're present and seeing something? Okay, we don't see. Yeah. Hello, Francesco. Thank you. Brilliant. Okay, great. I was panicking there that I'd set something up wrong or given a link that didn't work. Okay, great. So I have some slides for you. So let me share my screen and we can get going. Wow, Bali. Oh, amazing. Hi from Bali. I don't know what time is over there. It must be quite late. Um, right. What am I sharing? Here we go. So if I'm a little bit ropey, this is my first time hosting a webinar. I've done some moderation for Carmen, who also works with Creators for Climate, if you've been to a previous one. So if I mess anything up, then this is my first time being on the end of the Zoom. So apologies in advance. But thank you, everybody, for joining. This is me. I'm Thea DeGallier. I have joined Creators for Climate just over a month ago, about 6 weeks now, and I am going to be hosting this call today. I am membership and campaign lead. And yeah, so that's me. You don't need to know anything more about me. So yeah, hello to you. Thank you again. And some of you have already put in the chat where you're from. So it's great to see that we have quite a few geographies represented, but please do keep introducing yourselves and telling us where you are. And yeah, so I'm going to just give you a little overview of what we do at Creators for Climate. If you're already a member and you know this, then apologies for repeating what you might already be familiar with. But thank you for showing up to hear about our work again. So some of you might already know us from what we've done already, like our toolkits, our courses, our campaigns, appearances at events. So we have got some exciting new projects coming up this year, which I'm going to tell you a bit more about in a moment. The way that we mobilize the community has gone through a few guises. So we began as a movement in about 7 years ago in Amsterdam, and the community expanded through our digital hub. And we then introduced our courses, which some of you may have taken or attended another of our webinars or masterclasses. So if you have and you know our work or you've been to anything, then again, just let us know. It's good to see who is kind of familiar with us. A little bit of housekeeping that I should also have mentioned at the start is that we are going to have time for questions at the end. So we should have a Q&A function, but if you can't see that working, then please do just put any of your questions in the chat, and I can read those out after we've heard from our ambassadors. So our community now is over 7,000 members in 98 countries. We have three main programs for individuals, agencies, and brands. And the work that we do can be split into these two streams broadly that you see here, doing more good and doing less harm. So doing more good is about using creativity to drive awareness and action on climate and to normalize climate positive narratives and ways of life, and to ensure that creative output is backed by truth and science. Doing less harm looks like greenwashing awareness, which is what the events we're going to be hearing about today were centered around. Avoiding greenwashing as a result of that, not working with fossil fuel clients or high carbon clients, and measuring the impact of the behaviors that our creative work might encourage. So, an advert that is telling you to go and buy an SUV or take a flight, things sort of quantifying that to develop more of an awareness. And how we do this? Well, I mentioned our three programs. So this is what our structure looks like. For individuals, we have our free membership tier, which you may already be in, which is open to everybody. You can get access to our digital hub, where you can find other creatives to chat to, post or respond to job opportunities, share your work, ask for advice or help. I am looking after community management in the hub. So if you have any specific questions on how that works, you can find me in there and DM me. We are also revamping our paid membership tier, which is going to go live in early June. So previously, our e-learning materials, our courses like the Greenwash Watch and others, had to be purchased individually, but paying members, there is going to be a slight fee increase, which you will have, if you're a paying member, you will have received an email about. But all three of those courses now are going to be available under one membership for one price. So that includes our Greenwash Watch, Positioning for Purpose, and Communicating Climate Change. We also are going to be running regular masterclasses hosted by experts from our network, and these will be for members only. There's also the chance to pitch your own masterclass idea. We really want our community members to be a part of that and offer their own expertise if they feel so inclined. And a video library is an existing feature which has some great one-off lessons on career development, climate communications, and many other things. So there will be further comms and social media posts with more detail about that membership in the next few weeks. So please do look out for that. For agencies, we have our Ethical Agency Alliance, which is a growing network of agencies who have taken the greenwashing training and pledge not to work with fossil fuel clients and ensure that their procurement practices align with their creative output. And for brands, we offer the Brief for Better service, which is a matchmaking service in effect to find ethical and fossil-free agencies to work with brand clients. We're also working with those partners to bring you more job opportunities. So there is already a jobs board that anybody can post on, and that is going to stay there. But we are looking into more curated and sponsored posts to just bring high quality, authentic briefs and jobs to the community. So these are the solutions. This is kind of how it looks on a program level. And I am going to talk now about a couple of wins, what we've been up to lately. So we supported the Dutch campaign group Reclaim Fossil Free and other allies in our NGO network on their call for a fossil fuel ad ban in Amsterdam. And that came into force in May. So big well done to Reclaim Fossil Free for their years of work and policy influence on that. It was great to see that actually pay off, and it is also live in a few other cities in the Netherlands, and fossil ad bans have been proposed but not enacted yet in some other countries. So that is a growing movement. Our support there has been to make the case for a fossil ad ban as a creative solution and make space for campaigns that instead normalise low carbon ways of living and don't uphold the social licence of polluters. So we also released the Green Shouting Guide, which you might have seen at the Change Now conference in Paris back in March, alongside B Lab. And that's now had over 1,000 downloads and been read in over 90 countries, which is really incredible for us to see. We are working on translations just to increase the accessibility and availability of that in other regions. And we've got a Spanish and Portuguese in the works. They should be going live quite soon, and some other languages further down the line. We're also looking at inclusion in Global South regions there as well, because a lot of our work has been very Eurocentric so far. In the guide, there are some great brand case studies from the likes of Tony's Chocolonely and Who Gives a Crap, and some others that demonstrate how their operational integrity comes through in their campaigns without diluting their brand voice. Of course, we still have our other guides like the Greenwash Guide and Creative Integrity Playbook. They will remain free to download and use on our website. So what are we doing next? So this is a bit of a sneak preview because we haven't made official announcements, but they are coming in the next few weeks. So we have joined a UN-backed initiative called A Plan to Accelerate Solutions, or APAS for short. This is a collaborative effort to upscale efforts to drive change through narratives and storytelling. We are going to be unveiling more about that in the coming weeks, so please keep an eye on our socials to find out more about what that means, what our role is. We also have a workshop going ahead at Cannes Lions, which we're announcing tomorrow, so you heard it here first. We will be at London Climate Action Week related to our work on the UN PAS. And again, the announcement for that is going to come to you in the next few weeks. So please do give us a follow, sign up to our newsletter if you're not already. We are, working towards COP31 to continue our work and advocacy there. Not a huge amount more I can say on those things for now, but like I said, updates are coming your way. So what we're focusing on today is the fact that we couldn't have got where we are without our volunteer ambassadors. So a huge thank you to the ones who have joined our call now and are going to tell you more about how being an ambassador has played out in their own work and what that is like, what kind of things that they've done, because we are going to open expressions of interest for more ambassadors covering regions that we are not currently present in. At the moment, we're not immediately activating a new ambassador program, but we are reshaping kind of how we do that. And we do really want people to continue being involved. So this call is partly about finding out what that looks like in practice, if you are interested in kind of doing something in your region. So yeah, just a big thank you to everyone here who is going to tell you about that. That is the wrong slide. Last year, Earth Month, we held 10 events over 10 cities. And unfortunately, not all of our ambassadors can join today, but again, thank you to the ones that can. This was an EU-funded initiative, apart from Hong Kong, which obviously is outside of Europe, but incredible that our work was kind of picked up on the other side of the world with an ambassador there. So even though they're not here, thank you to them too. We've got some great insights coming up from those local representatives. And at those events, collectively 200 creatives were trained on greenwashing. And as you can see from these quotes here, the feedback was generally positive. It kind of really helped them express something that they were aware of, but maybe didn't have the terminology for, gave them a bit more hope that the industry does care. Really looking forward to hearing our insights from those local ambassadors that held those events on what happened there and what they've been up to since. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our first one, Holly Arnold, who is based in London.
Thank you, Leah, and hello. Apologies for background noise. I didn't quite make it to a silent space this evening, but there we go. I'm a B Corp and sustainability consultant, and I work predominantly in the creative industries and events sector, which doesn't come as a surprise given the number of events that we've put on so far. But yeah, if you want to skip to the next slide, please. It's a nice little snapshot here of Earth Month last year, which I had the pleasure to co-host alongside Ece, who's actually not on the call, but has been a big part of Creators for Climate. And we kind of came together alongside Lamia, who was the director of Lucky Generals, which is one of the Agency Alliance B Corp partners. So that was a really great opportunity. And we kind of kicked off with a bit of intros and some lovely pizza, drinks in their really lovely studio, a bit of an icebreaker, and then split into groups for the workshop. It was a brilliant kind of opportunity to come together to actually put it into practice, because the Green Wash Swatch, which was released last year or the year before, had kind of sat there and had been looked at, but it was a real opportunity to actually understand all the shades of greenwashing and really put them into practice, to challenge what it meant to greenwash, but also to understand and build confidence so that everyone there could meaningfully address those conversations and address those potential conversations with clients or with team members, which I think is the most challenging thing out of all of it. So there were lots of lessons learned, and there was lots of really ground of like spot the greenwashing and asking ourselves these questions of what greenwashing is it, would you work for this client? How could you improve this ad going forward? So yeah, it was a really great practice. And I think we came to the end with one final ad where we all sat together. We labeled it like not just the advert itself, but the whole brand mission, purpose, and the whole brand value, and actually kind of dug into that quite a lot. And I think having those conversations together was really, really important, because we were essentially upskilling based on people's lived experiences of what they were tackling in their job roles. And they were really diverse experiences based on people's positions, which obviously influence power, etc. Also, the kind of dynamics within different companies or with different clients. I think it was quite interesting that the brand we actually took apart was a purpose-led business and brand, but essentially they were over-promising on their commitments and over-promising on their product. And when it came to the end of the conversation of like, would you work with this client, or could you speak to this client about the real impact that they have? The kind of consensus was actually they're probably easier because they are still thinking in the right way. The intentions are right, but they haven't quite achieved what they wanted to here because it is misleading. So yeah, it was a real kind of confidence giver. I think everyone came out with it in feeling that they had upskilled. And I think that translated into the survey insights that we saw. I couldn't find the data there, but there was some really great data based on learnings within how confident people felt being able to embed this into their own practices. So that was really exciting. I think for me, it was a big learning for my clients. We always know that you need to start with action and commitment, and then from that you can then go into communications. But I think the anti-greenwashing kind of knowledge is always embedded in me to really challenge what's out there and challenge maybe good intentions with this idea of, is it misleading? Is it untrue? Which of course is the basis of greenwashing. I guess what I haven't touched on, because I couldn't see my numbers, was what we've been up to in London. And since 2023, we've won actually 5 events in London. We've had the pleasure to be at spaces like the RSA, certain cinema clubs in London, a very Christmassy venue that I ran a couple of years ago. And we've had, amazing feedback, but also amazing partnerships throughout that to be able to use the spaces for free, and to be able to bring different voices together from the community. And I think what's always really important for me is building community spaces which are safe for people to come together, be vulnerable, be honest, and learn together, and to be able to actually speak about your challenges and imperfections, which I think is what builds community, but it also what is build solutions. And so lots of the events that you put forward have been solutions-based. They've been, positive, and they've been about reflecting on our wins, but also very much digging into the challenges that we all face. And many of that, it comes into greenwashing. It comes into how do we create these really like authentic, meaningful conversations. And I think building community is all part of that. So I always look forward to that. I always look forward to bringing the London community together. And if anyone is out there from London, please get in touch, because we're always, always ready to co-create. It takes a few people to bring these events together. And that's really kind of the spirit of the ambassador program, I believe, is having everyone kind of who has a bit of time to share their ideas and to build this community of creativity as a force for good.
Sorry, I was struggling to find my unmute button because I have so many things open now on my desktop to run this. Thank you so much, Holly. That was an amazing insight and rundown of what happened and the power of community building. So really, really cool to hear about that. Next up, I believe we have Peppy. If you would like to take the floor, I think Peppy is here.
Yep, I'm here. Thank you,
Great.
Thea.
Hello.
Thank you. Hi. And I'm sorry I didn't pass the talking points. So this is unfortunately this is a huge picture in my head is all you will see. So I'll try to make it fast. So the crazy thing was in our case, the Lisbon event, the Lisbon meetup, took place on April 29th last year. And that was just one day after the massive blackout across Portugal and Spain, and I think some parts of Germany and France. So it was crazy. I think it was from noon or around 1 p.m. to almost 11 p.m. So it was crazy because we didn't know what was going on. You know, you didn't know what had happened and when would it come back. So there was no way to know that. So, with I wasn't the only one, of course, we were a team, you know, of people in Lisbon, and we were discussing whether or not to cancel or to postpone the events. Um, and we decided to, yeah, let's just do it, it was going to be more challenging to reschedule, so we just said, let's go ahead and welcome whoever could make it. But the truth is that we had been preparing a workshop on greenwashing, and suddenly we were just living a real, the real experience of how much we depend on energy, right? So so we said, okay, if there is any moment to do this is the next day after a huge blackout, right? So um, the event was of course, was affected by this, by the fact that everyone was like talking about what had happened the day before. And it made us, or helped us, or forced us to discuss the fact that, or reminded us how much we depend on energy, and especially how much our current energy systems still depend on fossil fuels. So, it of course kind of put the idea of the energy transition is not a trend. I think that was maybe one of the strongest reflections from that day, that we are all in a transition. We're all transitioning, and like it or not, we are transitioning to a renewable energy. And it's not just a nice to have or a cool sustainability topic. It's more a strategic transition for everyone, for communities, brands, businesses, and communities and cities. So kind of the blackout took over because it made that idea tangible in a way that no slide could. But we still, of course, work with the the main presentation, which was, the focus was on greenwashing. Um, and I'm kind of we we didn't want this to be a presentation, so we of course used the exercises, and we try to make this more interactive. And we had a couple of fun practical exercises. First of all, we also we presented examples of greenwashing campaigns and ads in Europe, and especially in Portugal. And you know, although we were presenting this, we were always aiming to make sure that everyone knew that we're all on this path towards becoming more conscious communicators. So we made participants work with examples and exercises to detect greenwashing. We talked about different types of greenwashing, and in my opinion, I think the most interesting exercise was to kind of think about a new brief, because to me it was fun, because this one exercise that I really thought that kind of helped everyone to understand what we were talking about was to transform a greenwashing ad into a more honest and responsible version of that same ad. So we broke on teams, and we had like 10 minutes or 5 minutes to rework that. And we reverse engineered, and we questioned what was the question that was missing in that brief, right? So we talked about that as well. The brief is kind of the seed of the outcome of the campaign or the concept. So to us that was pretty important, and we of course talked about that as well. But we always knew that, or we reminded everyone that we weren't there to point fingers at, or criticize communication, but just to make sure that we understood how easy it is to identify something that is not true or can be exaggerated, or when brands omit information, and also how easy it is to spin it around. So unfortunately, the attendance was lower than expected. We guess because of that, of the fact that the power came back almost at midnight the night before. But the good thing is the people who really, who came were, pretty engaged and present at that moment, which was pretty interesting and strong. And a smaller group usually turns into a more open conversation and intimate and honest, which was great because honesty and truth is kind of what beats greenwashing. So to me, the group exercises kind of helped realize that they're not alone in these questions, and we're not alone. But the biggest surprise to me, which was good and bad, was that I learned that almost no one had heard. I think no one had heard about greenwashing except the ones that we were, leading this event, which is a good and a bad thing to hear, because at first you would want everyone in communication to know what it is, but at the same time, it's good to see people asking new questions, looking at their own lives and and the way they work and live and their careers with new eyes. So to me, because the focus was responsibility, not blame, I think it was a positive event, and mainly thanks to the crazy blackout the day before. So that was my take on our April 29th events 2025.
Amazing, thank you. And that's such a powerful link, I think, between real life and the need to do this, because it's easy to think, oh, well, what role does creative work play? But when you frame it like that it is such a driver of the way that we can live our lives, the difference that we need to phase out fossil fuels. So yeah, incredible. I thought that was super powerful, Pepe. Thank you for that. So who have we got next? Angela, please.
Okay. Hi. I am Angela. As you can see, I'm a brand strategist since, let's say, 20 years. And I've always been working in big agencies, working for lots of clients, all kinds of clients. And then you can go next, because what I will say will be linked to the points of my presentation. Then at a certain point, I was living abroad, and then I decided to move back to Italy. I decided to take the opportunity of this life change, to upskill, let's say. So I did a course on sustainable marketing at University of Cambridge, where I met Gianpaolo Fabbro, who is following us and is my co-host. He was already into Creatives for Climate, and then he introduced me to Creatives for Climate, and I decided to join with enthusiasm, and I took the Greenwash Watch course while I was just back to my country, and I was in transition, so I was thinking about what to do next. After my path, let's say, in Cambridge and Creatives for Climate, I decided not to apply for another corporate role, but to found my own agency, my own consultancy, exclusively devoted to impact clients, to clients which have a commitment towards social or and environmental sustainability, which are of course connected. And so I decided also to be a leader, to understand more about impact, and the role of the Greenwash Watch was to help me challenge clients and supporting them also in the phase of making an impact, and to understand what are the main areas of impact for their business, and help them communicate just after things are done, and honestly declaring what they are really doing. In terms of the event, I decided to host a local event in Milan during Earth Month, but together with Giampaolo, we understood that the most interesting week within the month was the Design Week, because we typically have 500,000 visitors in Milan during that period. And so not only the local creative community is very engaged during the week, but we also have creatives from other countries, so we could inspire and exchange with a wider community. So we decided to partner with one of the main creative actors of the city, which is Politecnico di Milano, an educational institution, because we strongly believe that we need to engage with young people in order to, create a wider awareness, so that they can be trained to the power of our role while they are still in their educational path. So we participated to an event which is called Interdependence, that Politecnico di Milano holds during the Design Week, and which also engages 40 universities from all around the world. We hosted an event into the event, a round table between the main creative forces of the city, being them urban planners, designers, what can I say, advertisers, but also the board of certification, which are becoming closer and closer to the topic of communication. So we engaged B-Lab Italy, which was born 2 years before in Italy. Italy is a young country for B-Lab. And next year we discovered that there was a wider partnership between B-Lab and Creatives for Climate. So in a way, we were pioneers in this. And the roundtable was about communicating sustainability. So we didn't want only to point our fingers to define what honest communication looks like. We wanted to talk about how to be effective in our communication and how to engage also people that are not in the sustainability bubble. So how to, to touch also the personal and smaller interest of people not belonging to our own already aware group. It was a very interesting roundtable with lots of Q&A, and after that, I think that the main impact is the fact that many of the actors, which didn't even know each other at the beginning, because as you maybe experience also in your own country, the urban planners are one bubble, then the visual designers are one bubble, the advertiser another bubble. So we tried to create exchange and new collaboration arose after the event. We were called by Politecnico di Milano to give a speech on Creatives for Climate within their Master in Strategic Design 1 month after. And we have been called again this year to do another lesson. They were also proposing us to give us a stagiaire for Creatives for Climate. So let's see if we can negotiate this year. And also with another one of the actors participating to the roundtable, I have organized later on another event, including the local Chamber of Commerce, and devoted to small and medium enterprises, because as you know, after the omnibus, small and medium enterprises feel that they are not felt, at least when we did that, they were not they didn't legally require to comply to the CSRD, and so they were a bit detached from the topic of sustainability. So we've been highlighting the cost of inaction during the event in terms of not only of reputation, but also in terms of efficiency, in terms of relationship with the bank and the finance world and so on. So I think this is also another, effect of the event in Milan in 2025. And then the next step that we're going to hold will be next autumn. We've been contacted by B-Lab again, and we would like also to engage maybe the wider community of hosts, whoever is interesting to give their views and proposals to create a new event in autumn. Because what I've noticed, well, apart from spot initiatives, it's difficult to keep the local community alive. So I think in the future we need to do something that is more continuative, because of course we can collaborate and share information and experiences online through the platform, but I think physical meetups and actions locally are mandatory. So thank you.
Amazing. You've been up to so much, and that sounds like it's led to loads more opportunities for you in the community there. So thank you so much for your reflections and for everything you've been doing. And next up, we have Patrick.
Hi there, I'm Patrick from Amsterdam, creative director for What Is Word. Yeah, I've been following Creators for Climate, I guess, already since 2018. And well, obviously, first of all, being based in Amsterdam, that helps in a physical, proximity. Following the events and being inspired by them at some point, I guess in 2020 somewhat, I also well, had a little bit more involvement. At some point, I did the Greenwash watch, obviously, and some other things. And being like working in advertising in Amsterdam, well, formerly at agencies, knowing some agencies, I could align with them, could bridge sometimes, and get them on board maybe for the Ethical Agency Alliance, or create those connections. So I just remember like when one of the first events, there was like another creative, and I remember that like at the end of the event, which was great, and it was hosted back then at Patagonia with Lucy and with everybody there, and that creative, and which is fine, but he was still like, what can I do? What can I do? I need a brief. I need something to do. And I think this today also, with all the people being here, talking what they did during Earth Month, is something you all can do, to those who are listening. It basically there's a possibility for you to grow Creators for Climate and the ripple effect of it beyond the cities we are already speaking about. So looking forward to see what's maybe going to happen in Bali at some point. So bring it back to Earth Month, because we're talking about that. Yeah, basically, it was cross city, obviously, and a lot of the things that we did, the other host of the panelist also did. So there's not much more to add to that point. But what we did from Amsterdam point of view, we have the Ethical Agency Alliance, obviously, and some of the members are also located here. So we have, for instance, Blight. We also have like Hey Honey, and Chris Adams, who's a founder of Hey Honey, was so willingly to host one of the events. Well, this one, obviously, together with Lucy and myself. We gathered well, a lot of people, found in our space with Hey Honey, and we had a really nice evening, a very interactive evening. Obviously, also at some point we realized a lot of new people on the floor, so it was not per se everybody that was already in the know. So we could really throw in some new knowledge from the Greenwash Watch and the Anti-Greenwash Guide, but also combine it with an actual how can you apply it on a practical level. So we invited Rolf de Rode, who's from Van der Bron, and he was like the creative lead at that point at Van der Bron, and he showed us actually how he looks through the lens from how can I prevent as a brand, and they're Van der Brun, I must say, they are all about renewable electricity. But how can I still prevent then it feels like a false claim, So we want to be sure we don't greenwash, etc., in our language. But how do I go about that on a daily business? So there's kind of like the knowledge and the practical, how can you apply it? And he just walked us through some of the things he would feel like, okay, this is not appropriate. Here we need to discuss it with legal. This is if we would say we would frame something like this, we would go too far. So it felt very tangible, very applicable also because there were creators in the room, there were account people in the room, the strategy people in the room, etc., etc. But how can you apply that? So there, I felt that was a really nice touch we did for our edition in Amsterdam. And the room itself, it comes to life. So we have conversations. It's the new people finally have kind of like a moment where they can look left and right and see like, oh, I'm with like-minded people, and we might differ from like the occupation we're doing, but we're all in the creative sector. So some were makers, some were maybe thinkers or planners or whatever. But we're all kind of like combined. And that shared space you have. And I think what Holly mentioned, like that being also a safe space, that's gold. And there kind of like the community really starts to thrive and you feel also yourself as a person. Um, I imagine here that you kind of like, okay, yeah, this is where I can belong. And also find means to carry it on. So for myself, it was really interesting also to see, to kind of like, okay, I'm gonna present something. Okay, oh shit, oh damn, oh fuck me, this is gonna, it's a scary thing, because there's kind of like knowledge, and you've learned something basically here, in the Greenwash guide and the Greenwash watch and etc. etc. And now you're gonna talk about it to other people, and you want to transfer that what you have learned to other people. So that's also a great thing, personally, to go through that and to do that basically and give back in that way. Um, and that helps me in like on a daily businesses also, like how do I go about communicating the knowledge I have, transfer it to other people, to the clients I have, the discussions that arise from that, the feelings of the discomfort that there is, and in general also kind of like we still need to find that little spark sometimes, that hope. And I think that event on itself, that helps. So it's not only the Amsterdam event, but like as a whole collective across Europe and beyond Europe, yeah, being present, that's great. And then yeah, the takeout, if we're gonna go to the next slide, yeah, still interesting to see that 80% was new in that way. So I might think that people in the room are, already in the know about Creators for Climate, but there were people that were curious about Creators for Climate, that maybe they knew a little bit about it, but still we need to talk about Creators for Climate to really, whether it is create that safe space or onboard them, get them into the story, get them into action, because that's basically what we drive all individually here. And together also, you as listeners, we can inspire those actions, and really make that ripple. That said, yeah, it helps to find like common language, and that, yes, I also feel that it made me like also a little bit more confident about the things that I'm saying. So it helps me, and I believe that will also help other people, So um, it's to sometimes, the theory is the theory, so it's nice also you can land in, okay, this is how it's practical. The abstract becomes concrete. Um, Yeah, what can we say more? Think it's all written up here, but from there, since there, I think something Thea already touched upon is we helped at the Dutch campaign group, Reclame Fossilvrij, dus Dutch advertising fossil free, basically translated, and their push for the ban on fossil fuel advertising, which is now in effect. Really great to see that there, in that point, that is like kind of like Blight as a ethical agency is part of that. So the people from Creators for Climate are part of that. The NGO itself is part of it. So there are multiple people, aligned and helping each other, groups, to move some agenda forward, and indeed this time with success. As there already are multiple bans right now in the Netherlands. Another thing is that we're working now with Amsterdam Impact to see what we can do potentially from a creative for climate's point of view and ethical agency alliance, what we can do there for the creative industry, because they have a lot of buy-in into the creative industry. So that's something that's flowing from there. Personally, yeah, I think it's, in general, it's great to be at Creators for Climate, whether it's to upskill or even upskill, like doing these types of events. So yeah, my biggest takeout would be do something for Creators for Climate. Don't wait for the brief and just go at it and find your angle, and all is good. We need to win. However, how we win, it doesn't matter. Win hearts.
Well, that's a real call to action there, Patrick. Thank you so much. And I realized we got very excited that we have someone from Bali that we missed. There's also someone here from Manila. So welcome to you too, and of course to everybody else. Great, thank you. That was Brill. I think we've got Caroline next and then Ali, and I'm aware that we only have about 10 minutes left. So I hope we will have time for a couple of questions. But if we don't, I would really encourage you to join the hub as a free member if you like, and you can post any questions in there and we can try and answer them after the event digitally. So yeah, over to you, Caroline.
So I'm going to keep it short. As Patrick already said also, I mean, we had very similar workshop setups. So we also did the whole rethinking the campaigns and challenging the ideas and bringing back people together. And I'm probably one of the only ones who had this, like the real life greenwashing swatch, and yeah, discussing all the shades of greenwashing. And I really want to make it about the connections and the exchange that all of this has been bringing to me and to different people, because I joined the community like in 2022 when I just went freelance in the midst of the pandemic and everything. And the moment this call for the ambassadors came out, I was like, okay, yes, I would really like to do that, because I also knew that in Germany, we don't have the big community as, like, of course, in Amsterdam, where it all originated, and Lucy was at that time, and London, the same thing. And so I signed up for that. And in 23, we had the first German event in Berlin. That Megan organized, and where I was on a panel with Max, who is also in the ethical agency, is an ambassador, and held the same event out of this row in Berlin that I also attended. So there alone is so much of connection and overlapping, and one thing coming from the other. And in this event in Hamburg that I hosted, it was great to see that there were also so many different people. So it wasn't just the bubble that is like talking the same people to the same people that already know everything, but we had really different people there. For example, a former student of mine joined us. What I really, really like found incredible. She heard me talking about it in a class, and then she saw the announcement, and then she came to the event to learn more about greenwashing and sustainable communication. And there were also people who were like way more on the pragmatic side, because we went into this whole open discussion about, okay, what clients would you work for and what clients wouldn't you work for, and why, and what would the reasons be. And there were people that were saying, no, I would work for Shell if they make it incredible for me that they are doing something different. We have to work with the big polluters to change. And so there was like a really, really heated discussion about among the people, what I think is really great, because it's, yeah, if you just keep comfortable and everybody's saying the same thing, it's not going to go anywhere. And yeah, I really this whole ripple effect of it, and the space where you can speak open about all of these things that has been mentioned before. I think this is really was one of the really big things about this coming together, and that it was also happening all over the world, more or less, in this month. And I held the event in Hamburg, and then went to the event in Berlin. That was very international, of course, because it's Berlin, so there were people from different countries at that event. And I later got invited by Megan again, who is doing Content for Good, to a webinar to present Creators for Climate there. So the dialogue kept flowing. And I really think this is one of the incredible things about this community, that it's also so much about collaboration. So you have also different organizations coming together, working for the same thing, and so many different people. And yes, I think this is my biggest takeaway out of this all, is how fantastic this is to just mix up these different peoples, to inform different people who are already very much in the know, and other people who have a slight idea, and people perhaps that have absolutely no idea and who are hearing from all of this for the first time. And so yes, I hope somebody feels inspired to also at least join the community, and perhaps even then sign up for some ambassadorship later. And if there are any questions, just hit us up. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Last but definitely not least, we have Ali from Barcelona.
Hello. Well, I'm not from Barcelona, but I'm currently living here.
You live in Barcelona.
Yes. I think what I actually initially wanted to share ended up being very different from what people have been talking about. So hopefully we can end this on a very different note on my experiences. So we did only 2 events so far, and the first one was, I think, either beginning of March or end of February. So it's pretty recent here that we're building the Creators for Climate community. And we started off with a workshop event where we just kind of ran through the existing deck of Creators for Climate and everything that you know of. And then the second event, which was now 2 weeks ago, was like a more casual after works event. Overall, I think it was quite interesting to me, because I don't really know many local creatives. I don't know really local agencies. Where my agency is fully remote, and my team isn't based in Barcelona either. So it was a really nice way to connect with people here. And I would say a few highlights were definitely a really good mix of people who came to the first event. So it really was, some people who work in-house at brands, some people who have agencies, and some people who are freelancers. And even within that, a very interesting diversity of people. We had people working in fashion, we had artists, we had people working in like marketing and slightly more, number stuff. We had even some climate startups come. As well as Samuel, for example, who Thea was also in in Paris, who runs the COP Culture Pavilion. So we really had like a very interesting, diverse group of people, and I think that was really nice in the discussions and kind of came through in terms of, where people are coming from and how they're approaching this, even if they're not directly working with it. We had some, influencers who not really, working in climate, but had some way to engage with this as well, and then found it somewhat relevant to what they were doing at the end of the day. So that was very nice to see that such a diverse group of people exist here. And I think something that had initially resonated really well with me with Creators for Climate, that seemed to also resonate with them, is this idea that, as creators within the space, we're working towards a shared mission and a shared goal, and we're working towards it together. And that, I think, allows us to remove this notion of like competition. And I've met several agency owners now, and it's always been this very collaborative spirit, and the same with the freelancers that I was meeting. I think that really, really is one of the lovely parts of Creators for Climate that I love, which is it's a very collaborative environment and spirit, and the shared mission of what we're working towards really helps us kind of focus on the things that matter, and be able to like share our experiences. So yeah, I think for me that's really been a big highlight. And I think, yeah, especially the afterworks that we did, which was already a great turnout, because we had some people who had already attended the first event, and some new people. And, really now we have about, I would say, almost 50 people in Barcelona that are quite interested to engage. And beyond these like initial, so what do you do kind of conversations, I think my biggest highlight, and what's been very lovely for me, has actually been this like sharing of experiences, meeting, freelancers who are much more experienced than me, and talking about how much the industry sucks right now and how difficult it is for so many of us in so many ways. It's almost been like group therapy in some ways, it's been like feeling seen, feeling like it's not just us struggling in some ways in our work, but also in also being able to share experiences and what we're doing about it, or what angles we're looking at, what we're considering, how we see the future of this. I think that's been super valuable to feel seen, and like to have those shared experiences in that sense, because I think it's difficult to have that with someone who maybe just owns an agency or who's a freelancer and does communication. I think this is very much the impact space, and a very, very specific place to exist in, especially nowadays. So yeah, for me, that's been the biggest thing that really made me feel great, and has been motivating me to continue growing the community here. Because yes, we will do workshops and engage a lot more, in these topics, and hopefully do a workshop next in green shouting, and have a lot more engagement on the topics. But beyond that, I think it's been lovely meeting people, and building, also these friendships beyond the professional aspect. I got coffee with, I think, like 2 or 3 people separate from the events afterwards, and got to have like much more in-depth connections, and talk about how we're doing and everything. But yes, I can cut it short as the last person that way. I think for me it's been a really like big interpersonal connection. And now we're looking to grow the community here a bit more, have a bit of a WhatsApp community to like actually chat, and yeah, keep it active, hopefully to be doing an event every other month. And my goal is to have other people organize events, and not be like driving it forward, but that people are interested, which it seems to be the case so far. So yep.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And yes, thank you as well, Caroline. I feel like I didn't thank you very effusively after your slot, because I'm just trying to keep it to time. I don't want to keep anybody past the hour that we have allotted, and there aren't any questions in the chat. So again, I will reiterate, I'm very happy to answer questions personally to anybody who has anything they want to ask. If you sign up to the hub, I am in there, I am responsive, and our ambassadors here are all members too, if you want to post something for any of their attention. So I think we'll leave it there, but thank you so much to everybody who made time to come and talk here. Thank you to everybody who's joined, and I hope that you have got something from this. Like I said, I'm happy to chat to anybody online if you have any further questions, and we will be inviting expressions of interest for ambassadors in the next few weeks. So please do look out for that and sign up if you'd like to do something that all these amazing people have done. So big thank you again to everybody. I'm going to say goodbye to our panelists and our attendees, and have an amazing evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.